Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. Today I get to try a couple of pours here. One of them is from Michigan. This is Dragon's Milk. It's a single barrel, a special barrel that was released handpicked by the master distiller there at New Holland. And I actually waited in line for several hours to get this bottle so that I could send it to one of our supporters, who then sent me a sample of the bottle back as a form of payment. So I get to try it. And the two guys that picked this bottle up for have just sung the praises of this bottle. If you haven't had Dragon's Milk before, the Origin series from New Holland, I highly recommend it. I'm excited to try the single barrel offering that was hand selected by the master distiller. At barrel proof, no less. So that's 120.4. The second one is a Japanese whiskey. Now, I don't cover a lot of Japanese whiskeys here on the channel because I haven't really ever been super impressed by a Japanese whiskey that I thought to myself, man, I gotta have more of this. And that's interesting because Japanese whiskey is really inspired by Scotch whiskey. You know, the guy that really started the movement of Japanese whiskey in Japan had studied in Scotland and fell in love with the craft and took it back home, and that's really where things took off with Japanese whiskey. So this is Kaigan. This is their, I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's K-A-I-G-A-N. Kaigan. Japanese whiskey. It's just their standard Japanese whiskey, so they have other expressions like their Mizunara casks, their sherry casks, things like that. But this is coming in at 86 proof, and it is a blended Japanese whiskey. So just like the Scots, they do mostly a lot of blending, but they don't blend from distillery to distillery like Scotland does. I think they're starting to come around on that, but it used to be back in the day, like they would never trade barrels with another distillery. Well, where Scotland's like, yeah, absolutely. They have this rule called reciprocity, where they're like, our whiskey's your whiskey, man. We'll trade you this barrel for that barrel because we need that barrel that you have because we think it would blend well with what we're trying to make. So reciprocity, they're all Sharon and Karen in Scotland. They're just buddies. And in Japan, originally it was two distilleries that hated each other. I mean, hated each other, and they refused to share stock with one another for blending purposes. So these Japanese distilleries got used to actually distilling lots of different kinds of whiskeys in-house for their own internal blending. Anyways, Kaigan, we're going to kick things off with the Japanese whiskey just because it's 86 proof, and I don't want to blow my palate out with the 120.4 proof Dragon's Milk. Now, I will tell you that the guy that sent in the Kaigan, he's like, you got to try this. And I was like, really? Is it good? He's like, no, it sucks. I hate it. So that's what he said. I'm going to reserve judgment for after I taste it. But let's get diving in on this. I'll get these poured, we'll nose them, we'll taste them, and I'll share my thoughts. Two very different bottles. Now, the Dragon's Milk Origin is technically bourbon, but it is what they call very high malt in the mash, but they don't disclose their mash bill. So there is a lot of malted barley in the Dragon's Milk, which is why I thought maybe this would work, because they're both malt barley, drinks. Anyways, kick things off with the Kaigan. This, I think, is like a $45 bottle, just for the standard offerings. It's not very expensive, so it's not like going to be a pricey mistake if you buy it and you don't vibe with it. But let's give her a try. The nose is interesting. It's very savory, like saltine crackers, and a hint of like butter pecan, which I like butter pecan. And I'm getting that butter pecan ice cream kind of a note on the nose as well. And I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm even getting like, my brain keeps jumping to wasabi peas. I used to love just having a bowl of wasabi peas out, just popping in my mouth while watching TV at night or something. I used to love those things. This is giving me kind of those similar wasabi notes on the nose. That's strange. Well, down the hatch. Cheers. You know what this tastes like? You ever have the popcorn flavored Jelly Bellies? The popcorn flavored jelly beans? This literally tastes exactly like that. Like exactly like those popcorn Jelly Bellies. That's friggin' weird. You know that gif of the girl that's like, no, maybe, no. That's me right now with this. I taste it and I'm like, well, do I like, no, I don't think I do. That's me right now. It's got this like bitter astringency up front, and then that popcorn note comes along, and that's where I'm like, well, but is it? And then that sort of bitter like stale cracker note comes back at the end. You know what? I don't think I like that very much. I don't think I do. So Derry, I think Derry's the guy that sent this in. I think I gotta agree with you on this pour. I'm not vibing with it. It's weird. Maybe the more I drank Japanese whiskeys like this, maybe I would start to appreciate it more. But for now, I'm tasting that and I'm thinking, you know what? I don't think so. But that's just me. Let's move on to the Dragon's Milk Origin Single Barrel. So what happened was the master distiller selected 2 barrels by hand that he was like, these are like the best ones in the warehouse right now. And he did a special drop, a limited release, a very limited number of bottles. So I showed up real early on a Saturday morning and I waited for hours in line to pick up a bottle of, 1 bottle of each of those 2 barrels he selected, which was the maximum you could do. They weren't going to let anyone take home more than 1 bottle from the same barrel. So I got 1 bottle from each, and they were $100 a pop. I sent them out to the guys that I was picking them up for, and both of them separately messaged me afterwards and were like, oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing. Which is high praise because both of these dudes are like big Buffalo Trace fans, and they have some pretty exclusive high shelf bottles from legacy distillers, and they're messaging me saying, oh my gosh, this bottle from New Holland is dynamite. So now I get to find out for myself, and I do know for a fact that I do like their distillate. New Holland's actually pretty close to me. It's like a 15-minute drive for me to get to one of their locations. They're starting to really make a name for themselves in the whiskey world. Oh my gosh. I'm a big fan of sweet and savory as a combo. My parents were in town visiting a couple weekends ago, and we went to this like amazing restaurant that's known for having a killer like brunch menu. And so we went there after church, and I got their it was like Nashville hot chicken and waffles, which was like, it had like a maple adobo sauce on it. It's that sweet and savory, the chicken and the waffles, the maple and the hot peppers, you know what I mean? I love a good sweet and savory combo. This on the nose is giving me similar vibes, sweet and savory, because I'm getting like sorghum molasses, that thick, chewy sorghum molasses, but I'm also getting what I think of like almost like bacon fat. Like, you ever have brown sugar? My wife makes these in the oven, like brown sugar glazed bacon chunks. Dude, killer. This is giving me similar vibes. That sweet sorghum molasses, a little bit of that bacon fat in here too. But I'm also getting this wonderful like sarsaparilla root beer kind of a note too. I grew up in the heart of Indiana, and we would go every year to this festival called the Festival of the 1812, which there was like a big battle in the War of 1812 there in central Indiana. So they reenact that battle every year, and they have this festival where it's all period, like people show up in period clothing, and they make period, like in that time period cuisine. And one of the things is that there's always a booth there where they make homemade sarsaparillas and root beers from scratch. And it's friggin' killer stuff. This reminds me of that. Old school, old-timey sarsaparilla. All right, let's try it. Cheers. Come on. I could pick their distillate out of a lineup easy because it's so distinct. You know what I mean? Well, all these other micro distilleries are sourcing the same juice with the same mash bill from the same Indiana distiller and then just slapping their name on it. You have these other distilleries like New Holland that are like, nah, we're gonna do it all in-house from scratch. And because of that, their distillate ends up being pretty distinct. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. I can tell you with New Holland, it is a good thing, because this is dynamite. That sarsaparilla root beer really coming through. Not fizzy, it's more like your flat, but really sweet sarsaparilla. That savory note, kind of like the bacon fat. It's more pretzel-y on the palate, and it's on the tail end of the palate, late in the palate, and extending into the finish. But I gotta tell you, that is delightful. And it packs a good punch too. So let's give these pours some scores. We'll kick things off with the Kaigan, whatever, the Japanese. I'm gonna say, for me, that's a 3.7. That ain't great. It's not like I didn't spit it out, but it ain't great. I don't think I would ever go out of my way to intentionally pour that for myself. I certainly wouldn't buy it for myself. And I never enjoy saying that. Obviously, it's never something that I like take pleasure. I want to love everything. I want to like it. It would be my preference that every whiskey I drank was delicious. That one just wasn't. So that's why I land where I land with that. But let's talk about the Dragon's Milk. For me, that one's going to come in at a solid 8.3. Fantastic. Yeah, killer stuff. I still think my favorite stuff I've ever had from them has actually been their, barrel proof cask strength stuff, but then finish. They do like a honey cask finish. They've done like an apple brandy cask finish. They do some pretty cool stuff. Those ones really stand out. In fact, this weekend, they're doing a Dungeons & Dragons collaboration with a mead cask finish. But the local people here, I'm going to withhold judgment. The local people here aren't super excited about it because anytime you do a collab, the price gets jacked up because they got to like cover the cost of collaborating with another person and, getting their name on the bottle. So because of that, the price tag is $150, which is more than their cask strength limited release offerings at $100. The difference though is that this is only going to be 100 proof. So it's proof down to 100 proof after being finished in mead casks. So $150 for 100 proof. The local people here are kind of like, I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger on that. Me, I play Dungeons & Dragons, and I'm a dungeon master, and I love it. So I kind of feel like I kind of need to go get one of those. So anyways, I'm going to roll the dice to see if I can get my hands on one this weekend, but we'll see. Anyways, cheers, my friends. May you live richly and get better with age, and I sure hope to catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.